Look at this beautiful Alocasia Jacqueline leaf over here. Gorgeous. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. I just got plant mail. There's 4 teeny tiny plants in here. In today's video, we're gonna unbox these plants. We're gonna assess how they dealt with the shipping. We're gonna assess what I'm gonna do to make them recover from the shock as quickly as possible. And then we're gonna see how fast I can grow these plants to maturity. Righty, let's start with the most obvious part first. I need to unpack them. So this is from a plant grower in Western Australia called Flora Magnifica, and I've ordered from them a lot recently. Well, by a lot I mean I've ordered 3 plants before. I've had my El Choco, my Florida Beauty and my Florida Ghost, all from them. I think that's it. I think just those 3. And that's really, apart from going down to AJ's and getting, taking some cuttings home every now and then, those are really the only plants I purchased recently. I know that's such a lie. I bought a Heliconia today. Those are the only indoor plants that I've been purchasing recently, and I've been obsessed with this place because, and it sounds weird, but it's honestly the smallest plants I have ever found. And I love setting myself these challenges. I love getting really small plants and then trying to grow them as large as possible myself. Like that is, I don't know, that's thrilling to me at the moment. It kind of gave me a little bit of motivation again. This year I really want to start some small plants again so that I can see them grow up over the next 2 to 3 years. All right, beautiful. So we've got a little instruction sheets. So all of the plants from Flora Magnifica are tissue cultured. So they call them tissue culture plantlets, and they gave some general care tips in relation to all of them. So in this box, I have 2 anthuriums and 2 alocasias. The anthuriums is a double up, one for me, one for a friend. Those are all plants I wanted for a long time. I'm excited, and now that they're finally because they're tissue cultured and they're really small, they're finally affordable. So let's have a look. And they're very well packaged, so nothing is moving in there. So let me really carefully get rid of all of the paper. Oh, it's looking pretty. It's also going into spring over here, so it's just a perfect time to get onto some plants. All right, first one, Alocasia Friedeck. Oh, I hope you can see this. I'm covering my face so my camera doesn't focus on me. Alocasia Friedeck, wanted this forever. It's only this year they've become affordable. Like the last 2-3 years, that was absolutely crazy. By the way, apparently you only call the variegated version Friedeck. The green one is just Alocasia Macavita. Alrighty, so Alocasia Friedeck. I'm really excited for this one. Alright, and let's have a close-up look at the roots. That is looking really good. So I'm gonna just pop it right back in here. It was also sufficiently moist, so I'm just gonna do nothing. Let me park this on the side. Okay, let's go with the next one. Let's stay on theme. Let's go with the other Alocasia maybe. This one is Alocasia Odora Batik, or Batik. Batik. I don't know. I love when people, it's like, this is not how you pronounce it. It's like, honestly, with the English language, nobody can agree on how to pronounce anything. Like there's some people that pronounce mirror, and squirrel. So let me pronounce Monstera adansonii however the hell I want. Seriously, as long as we all know what we're talking about. I suppose my pronunciation is probably more like Germanic. Like I pronounce it the way it's bloody spelled. All right, so this one, what did I say it was? Oh, it says it right there. Alocasia Odora Batik. So, but this is variegated. I don't know. I had this day where I just had the desire to buy all the variegated alocasias in the world. Bradley, are you stealing my chair? I just got off for 1 second. Come on, you can sit here. No? So this one can grow huge. So I wanna obviously, you know, grow it in here first, but I reckon in summer, either greenhouse or outside. Right, I'll just unplug this. Also some roots over here. I don't want to cause too much stress, but just wanted to see that there are roots. Okay, and now the anthuriums. So I have 2 of the same. And recently I fell out of love with anthuriums a little bit. It comes in waves. There was one anthurium always on my wish list that I was never able to get my hands on because the prices were just outrageous, like thousands. Anthurium luxurians, that was just the priciest, right? Like eventually all the crystallinums, clarinerviums, magnificums, they went down, but the luxurians for some reason were always really, really expensive. So I found these cute little tissue cultured ones and they're still $100 each, right? So it's still not a steal. It's still quite expensive if you think about the size. I deserve to reward myself. And I don't even need a reason to reward myself. If I feel like it, I should just do it. And I just really felt like it. So I got 2. You're gonna focus. Here you go. I think that's in focus now. Well, they're tiny. You can't really see much yet. Let's just check their roots as well. And they seem still very moist. Yep, there's some roots visible there. So, I unpacked them. I looked at them all as well, and I can't see any pests. Now, I highly recommend that you isolate your plants, if possible, after you got them. So in case there is something wrong with them, and it doesn't even need to be pests, it can be fungal or bacterial infections as well. So if you can isolate them so that whatever they might have isn't going to spread to your entire collection. I'm not going to do that, so do as I say, not as I do. Reason for that is I just don't have space anywhere where I can isolate them but provide them with good conditions. So what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to pop them in my IKEA cabinet that's just right behind me over here, because right now the most important thing is for these plants to recover from any sort of shock. So they were shipped from Western Australia. I got the tracking notification on Monday, so I'm assuming somebody would have packed these plants on Sunday and then brought them to the post office on Monday. It's Wednesday afternoon now, so the plant has, you know, been in darkness and been shipped around, and I don't know what sort of temperatures it would have been exposed to over the last 3 to 4 days. And these plants are small, right? Like they're not going to be able to deal with all too much. So right now my mission is really to reduce the shock that shipping would have induced. So I want to provide them with the best possible conditions. And the best possible conditions are in my IKEA greenhouse. So I've got like a metal grid in my IKEA cabinet, and these clips that work with the IKEA pegboard are perfect. And they hold even really large pots. I even put 14 centimeter pots on these clips and they're held together really nicely. So with these teeny tiny pots, with these teeny tiny plants in it, it's not gonna have any problem. The problem is it gets really back heavy once you put the clips on. That's okay. So I'll put them at the very top of the cabinet because I want them to have really bright light. It's nice and warm in there, and it's like almost like 99% humidity in there as well. So the conditions are just mwah. So it's gonna have a good time. I'm not gonna water it for now. The medium was still sufficiently moist. So I'll probably check in on these plants in like 3 to 4 days time to see if I can do my first watering. And when I water, I'm probably gonna water with GT Foliage Focus or GT CCS. CCS would be my preference. CCS is Clonex clone solution, so it focuses more on root health and reducing stress from propagation, for example, in this instance stress from shipping. whereas Foliage Focus would focus more on foliage. Right now, I want these plants to establish a healthy root system, because if they don't establish a healthy large root system, they're just gonna melt eventually and there's not going to be any leaves. Roots are key when it comes to establishing plants in your conditions. The existing leaves I'm also not super worried about. Those might have grown up in perfect conditions or very different conditions. So it's normal for the plant to maybe drop a leaf or so as part of the journey. But again, I'm focusing on healthy root growth. So let me pop them in the cabinet and then I'll show you where I put them. Alrighty, so let's hear from Jan in the future, who hopefully is going to show you some nice progress. So, turns out Jan from the future is an idiot who doesn't know how to use his camera. So, I recorded this whole spiel in slow motion, which means that there's no sound attached to it, but I was obviously able to speed up the footage. So, the footage looks normal now, but there is no sound, so I'm gonna voice over. Basically, the plants were growing just fine in my IKEA cabinet. I definitely saw a little bit of growth, especially in the root department. So when I looked at the healthy root system that these plants have, I thought it would be time to maybe give these plants a slightly larger pot and repot them into my aeroid mix. Specifically impressed by these anthurium roots, specifically that second one over here. Hang on, I'm gonna pop that out in a sec. There we go. Those look nice and chunky considering the tiny size of the plant. So first things first, I gotta get rid of all of the moss. I try to be as careful as possible over here and not rip any roots, but realistically you will probably cause a little bit of damage. And that's okay. If you want to avoid it, you wouldn't grow it in moss in the first place. Maybe use tree fern fiber or something similar. But they all had really, really decent root systems. And that is the most important part at this stage of this plant's journey. I mean, look at that. So I potted them all up in 10 centimeter pots and in my aeroid mix, but I made the aeroid mix a little more water retentive using more cocoa, no, not cocoa, what is it? Tree fern fiber, that one. And my anthuriums also got a little layer of moss on top. I found that that really helps them retain more moisture and it kind of funnels aerial roots into the pot. Alrighty, that's it. I gave them some water and then I popped them back into my IKEA cabinet. So, it's been 1.5 months since the repot and these plants have been thriving. They've been in my IKEA cabinet since, so in case you're not familiar with my IKEA cabinet, it is basically an environment that has perfect conditions. I'll pop a little screenshot of the reader that I've got in there on screen as well. So it's always high humidity, it's always nice temperatures, and most importantly, there's not much fluctuations in the conditions. So a lot of these plants really, really like it. There's also consistent airflow, which I find helps the plants grow fast and strong as well. So let's have a look at all of these. I'll bring them a little bit closer, but overall, very, very happy with their growth so far. Okay, first up, we've got this, and I have to apologize. I think in the initial video, I actually switched the two alocasias around. So this is the Okinawa, what is it called? Batik. I'll pop it on screen again. But it has had, honestly, the nicest variegated leaves. Most recently, this more half-half one. You can really see that the green half is so much like healthier and more developed than the variegated half. But oh well, so be it. And a new one on the way over here. So happy days. And look at the root system that it has already grown in just 1.5 months since the repot. So this is in a mix that is very tree fern fiber heavy, because I find that alocasias really, really don't like drying out. This one is the fried egg. This is its latest leaf that it pushed out and it's working on its next one already. Love this, would love a little bit more variegation, but specifically when they're really small, it's actually quite nice for them to have more green because it helps them get established. Huh? This one doesn't have quite that much variegation. This one had even less. So it's a good ride. It seems to be increasing in variegation, and I don't know if you can see that sheen, but I love that velvet texture. Very, very happy. Also, prolific root growth. Is this going to focus? Yeah, prolific root growth. And you can also see all of that condensation. It's a good indicator for me that I just don't need to water this. But look at all of these beautiful roots. That's happy. Also, again, very tree fern fiber heavy because I really don't want this to dry out. And then I have the two luxurians. They look so nice. Look at how like the texture of luxurians is already coming out, even though they're still quite small. This one is already growing its next leaf over here. So very, very excited for that. Overall, really, really happy with these. Love them. Can't see quite as much root growth. There's some coming through, but compared to the alocasias, there's quite little root growth in here. Actually, I can't really see much, but that's okay. I mean, if you think about it, this plant is so much bigger than this plant, so obviously it needs more root to bring water to all of these leaves. So far, I'm super, super happy with that. I did not expect them to actually grow this fast, this quickly. They went through so much shock in those 2.5 months, right? They went through being shipped here, being introduced to a new environment, and then being repotted. I'm not planning on repotting them again anytime soon. So I think they've only really just gotten started. So I'm excited to give you an update in another couple of months or weeks' time. Hello, and I'm back with a little update. It's been 2 months since we last spoken, and a few things have happened. Some good, some bad. Let's start off maybe with the bad news. I only have one of the luxurians left, but that is not because the other one died. That is because I gave it away. I mean, that was always the reason, and I actually gave the larger one away, and I kept the smaller one. But it is growing a new leaf. Right here, and I'm really excited to see what this turns into. The texture is exactly what I was hoping for. Nice, and I think it's called bullet. So yeah, technically not actually bad news. I was expecting that. However, what is bad news is this. My fry deck is not happy. I can't see any signs of spider mites or any other pests. I can't see signs of root rot. Actually, I can see some really healthy roots in this pot. But the newest growth was kind of a bit moldy. So I had to like rip it out because obviously I don't want the mold to spread. But I don't know why and how and where. But there's a big corm that has grown over here. So maybe it's just gonna reshoot somewhere else. And I honestly don't know exactly what happened. It kind of happened around about the same time as the move, so maybe I missed something, I don't know. I don't think it's because of the shock, because of the actual move, because it was in the IKEA cabinet before and it's in the IKEA cabinet now, so there's not too much change in conditions. Plus, the other alocasia, and of course this alocasia might just be much easier going, is thriving. Yes, it is of course giving me some yellow leaves, but as long as that's always the oldest leaf, I'm not mad. This has grown crazy roots. Look at that crazy root system, and some really nice foliage as well. It had this fully white leaf over here, not fully white, like very white, with some green speckles and some half. I think this one is the latest one. So stunning variegation and decent growth. These two are right next to each other in the IKEA cabinet. They're getting the same conditions, they're getting the same treatment. All I can think of is maybe that I overwatered this a little bit. Given that this has smaller leaves, it would use less water. I kind of stick to the same frequency, but then alocasias usually don't mind being more on the wettish side as long as there's aeration, which there is, because I can see by the roots that they're really healthy. So anyway, so at this stage there's no real learning as to why the fry deck might have gone downhill, but honestly I haven't even had a good time looking after the green version, so I'm not terribly surprised. I don't know. Maybe it's time to put it in my actual greenhouse instead. Yeah, I might do that. I might just put it in my actual greenhouse and see if it's happier there, because I mean, something needs to change. This is just not doing anything. And look, if it completely declines, I do know that there's a corm that I can try and propagate. Anyway, I'll do that. I'll pop these two back in the IKEA cabinet. I'll put this one in the greenhouse. I'll put it probably in a really sunny spot. See if that Well, maybe not super sunny. See if that makes any difference, and I'll just see you when it's time for the next update. And we're back. It's been exactly 6 months since I started this video and 6 weeks since the last update, so I thought it would be good to do one final update before we wrap it up. I've had these plants for 6 months and I've had them for the better half of the year, if that makes sense. So the 6 months going into spring and summer, so just keep that in mind. And I really can't complain apart from this one. So let's maybe start off with this one. This is my Frydek. And she just never really came back from the move. Like, she really bloody hated it. And yeah, that's it. Now, I think I might have kept her a little bit too moist. That could have been my fault. Sauce. But yeah, I eventually removed the plant. I actually, like, one comb was pushing out to the top, so I actually removed that comb and hasn't done anything yet. But the pot in itself is showing 3 new signs of growth. One here, one right here, and one here. Very hard to see. So yeah, I will just pop it back into the greenhouse where most of my other allocages are these days. And I just hope that I have 3 new plants coming out of here. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I don't know, but it just comes to show that not everything works out. Really quick update. It's 1 month later and these 3 little shoots have sprouted. And yeah, it's looking good. So see if I have more success this time. And the spare comb is also showing its first leaf. Yay! This plant, however, has received the same conditions as well as the same care, and it is doing amazing, right? I love this plant. I think the variegation is stunning. It doesn't skip a beat growing, and look at the root system that it has grown as well. So this plant is super, super happy. I'm gonna focus on this plant. I want to give it a repot because I think that's what it needs to really take it to the next level. This plant can grow quite large, and I'm excited to keep sharing more updates with you in a separate video over the coming months and years about this plant. So I've really started appreciating allocages now that I have a greenhouse and spider mites don't seem to be such a big issue anymore. And then lastly, I've got my luxuriance over here. I think it's come a long way as well. This is a new leaf that's still inflating, so I hope it's going to get quite large. It has some roots pushing up against the edge over here, so it's doing its thing, but I'm not in a rush to repot this or do anything about it. It's just doing its own thing, and I'm happy for it to do so. I was really worried at the very beginning when they're really tiny, they're so vulnerable, but it overcame that stage. So I think from here, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and I'll stay patient. So I'll park these 2 on the side. And I'm just going to repot this. While I repot this, let's maybe address the lessons learned from this video, right? So the lesson learned from this video is really that it is totally okay to get teeny tiny plants. They can survive and you can grow them nicely, even within just half a year. But of course, you need to stay patient. I suppose a lot of people would purchase a plant this size in the first place and would still consider this quite small. But to me, it's really exciting to get a plant really, really small and then grow it myself. But of course, it comes with higher risk because smaller plants are more vulnerable, so things are more likely to go wrong. If you do want to grow plants from a really small tissue culture, plantlet or cutting or whatever, I think you should really put a lot of effort into providing these small plants with the best conditions possible. So in my IKEA cabinet, they have really high humidity, consistent airflow, consistent light exposure, and they seem to be liking it, apart from the Frydek, of course. Now, these are not the only plants I've done this with. I think last year I got about 10 or so of these smallish tissue culture plants because it is a really affordable way to get a new plant into your collection. But it was only really affordable because it was so small. And if you don't have an IKEA cabinet, for example, to offer these small plants while they start growing and establishing a little bit more, you can honestly just take a box, like a see-through box, close the lid, create a high humidity environment, and every now and then just open the lid to give this plant a little bit of airflow. So I highly recommend it, and hopefully this video was able to encourage you to give this a shot yourself. But I also want this video to be a realistic reminder that not everything will always go according to plan. Some plants are just not meant to be, and that could be because of the actual specimen, aka this specific plant just does not have the desire to live. It could be based on the species, aka this species just does not like the environment that I've got to offer, or there could have gone something wrong. When we're dealing with plants, it can be a quite complex topic, and it's not super easy to pinpoint your finger at just one thing and say, oh, I watered too much. I didn't see root rot by the time the plant was already dead, so I don't think there was any root rot, so I don't think I watered too much. I don't think I gave it too little light. I don't think I gave it not enough airflow. I don't think there was any pests on this plant. So I can eliminate what it could have not been, but that doesn't necessarily help me pinpoint exactly what went wrong. It could be a combination of many factors that just kind of led to the demise of the plant. That's not a reflection of me being a bad plant parent. Right? I do not take that personally. Of course, it's unfortunate because I paid money for a plant that doesn't really exist anymore, and I didn't even learn a proper lesson from it. It's not like I was like, oh, I would know so much better the next time around. To be honest, I would do things very similar and just hope for a better result, which is usually not the best thing to do. But it's not necessarily giving me that lesson learned that I really want, but that is okay. Growing plants is an imperfect hobby, and as a perfectionist myself, I really had to come to terms with that. There is failure, it requires patience, not everything goes according to plan, and sometimes you just need to kind of let go and understand that you can't control every single aspect of this hobby. So it is what it is. I feel like it's making me grow as a person. Alrighty, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope in general you enjoy these videos where I film the progress of a couple of plants over a long period of time. They're quite time consuming, they're very time consuming to edit, you know, it takes a lot of planning ahead and so on. So I'd really appreciate if you'd give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a nice comment, share it with anybody else if you enjoy this sort of video and the effort that goes into it. Thank you so much for watching, appreciate it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!